if I go back to that opening conversation when you and I first met, there's a couple words that stood out to me then. They're not great words, but they were the truth for you. It was the word lost and unhappy. Take us back to that point in time. What was going on for you that led you to that experience?
I've been in my current job for going on 10 years now at the current company, current career for 12, right out of school. And the entire time I've been spending it in manufacturing facilities. But by the time you and I met, I was expecting our first child and I was really thinking about the future, where I was in my life and all of that. I was just lost and I was kind of, do I want to continue with this? Do I even want to continue to be an engineer? But that was a question on my mind is this the career path that I want to continue down with a kid on the way? I feel unhappy and I guess unsatisfied, I guess, with my life to that point. And it wasn't for lack of, like you say, success. I've done fairly well for myself. I've got the education, I've got a stable job, I've gotten to travel.
For you, if you take that, 10, 12 years before that moment as an engineer, how would you describe the arc of getting to that place? Was it, everything was awesome for 10 years and then all of a sudden it kind of dropped off and suddenly I feel this way? Did it feel like a kind of a slow decay over time? Like, how would you describe the trajectory from point A to point B for you?
If I'm honest, I think it was a slow decay over time. If anybody wakes up some morning and like things aren't the way they are, if we're honest with ourselves, they haven't been the way we wanted them to be for a while. And I think
Yeah.
that's probably the case for me too. When I first joined, I was fresh out of school, no obligations. I could travel a lot, so I did. I spent a lot of time on the road, and that was awesome. Eventually found my wife, Elizabeth. We got married. You get into a relationship, all of a sudden, we buy a house, we do the things, but then the obligations of that kind of stuff start weighing on top of the work obligations, especially if you have to travel for work, man. I mean, like,
Yeah.
you want to be home more, your partner wants you to be home more. There's maintenance and stuff around the house if you're traveling every week, and then that coupled with this here life-changing event, like I'm gonna have a new life that I'm responsible for. I want to provide well for them, but I also want them to be in a loving home with their parents around. And I want to be in a good mood for them because I don't want to be miserable raising a child. Like
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
awful. It's awful, man. So I think it was just a lot of that ruminating in my own head about obligations and that kind of stuff. And to be honest, as I learned in the program, like I know there was a lot of fear, reluctance to take steps that I thought I needed to take for fear of what would happen if I
Yeah.
did, right? So
I think this experience you're describing of a slow fade is the majority of people's experience, to your point. What was the wake up call? Everybody has the moment where they suddenly realize I'm not where I want to be. Where did you first realize this is not the right trajectory for my life?
I really don't think it was just a single thing. Like we found out Elizabeth was pregnant with Teddy, and I was on the road when I found out. And that was exciting. It was a lot of fun, but it was like, okay, well, I'm on the road when I find out my wife's pregnant. And then so she and I talked about like reducing the amount of travel and then eventually like getting close to the pregnancy that, I would have to stop travel altogether. And I have to give credit to the owners of the company, Jan and Matthias. Like they took it in stride. They were open to it. Jan really stepped up and started taking some of the travel as I weaned off and down from that. So I have to really thank them for their
Yeah, it's
openness on
awesome.
that. I think it was this conflict in me where I felt obligated. This is what I've been doing for my whole career, and what's going to happen if I stop? But I don't want to keep traveling like this. There was this like conflict in me, and the only way out I could see was potentially getting out completely.
Yeah, just walk away from this.
Right.
So you mentioned the program, and for those who don't know, we have the Lifestyle Engineering Blueprint, a program designed to help engineering leaders, finding themselves in situations like what were in at that time, or many other different kinds of situations engineering leaders get stuck around as they're pursuing career success. But if you were going to take that whole experience and just boil it down and say, what changed? What shifted in you, starting the program to today? What are the biggest things that you would say have transformed?
I think there would be three things that I would say were the biggest things for me that transformed. One was how to ask the question, why? Because something that we go through is you have this whole exercise about meaning and purpose. What is your purpose, right? And like, I'd never done anything like that before. You think vaguely in terms about, at least for me, it'd been vaguely in terms about what do I want to achieve and who do I want to be. But a formal process of sitting down and drawing a box around that was very powerful, right? Suddenly I'm putting it on paper. Who do I want to be? What do I want to be? How does this fit? What is my purpose here for doing this? How does that look in my future? That was very big for me. Two was everything around shifting your mindset, like challenging yourself around, are you fixed mindset and are you growth mindset? And at this point, I must sound like I belong to a freaking cult or something, man. But like the ability to like look at the way things are for you and how you're approaching them, like asking yourself honestly, like, am I approaching this from the point either I do this or I don't, and that defines who I am?
Yeah.
I have the opportunity to give it my all. I might fail, but that doesn't mean I'm a failure. Like I just failed, or I didn't figure out how to do it right this time, or there's something there that if I want it hard enough, I can get it. But I have to be open to the fact that like I might not be good enough yet to get it, right?
Mm.
So that growth mindset was really really big for me. And the I know everybody hates them in the program, but the challenges, man, the C4 challenges, challenging me to get out of my skin. I spent an entire afternoon with $35 in my pocket, walking up to random people, asking them for $5. And then when they said no, offering them $5. And not a single one would take my money. And they were all just like, some of the folks I would walk up to, or I would like think about walking up to them for like 10 minutes before I like finally
Sure.
got
Yeah.
enough
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
courage to like walk up to this random person on the boardwalk in North Beach, like, can I have $5? I think it was just that forcing myself into a situation that I would never ever like have conceived of doing, like $5, like it's so weird. Why would you do that? And
Yeah.
all the stories you tell yourself in your mind about like they're gonna call the cops or they're gonna cuss you out or like some like I think more than anything that is just like this unformularized anxiety about what could happen, but you
Right.
don't know what that
Right.
is. This like nebulous uncertainty and like how terrifying the unknown is. But forcing myself through that is just like, oh, it didn't destroy me, which sounds ridiculous, but honestly, like just asking somebody for $5.
Yeah. No, I